We at Survivor Corrections Without a Union was not created to remove our union COBA. We believe in unionization and the right to unionize. It's a platform that helps you to survive the Department of Corrections when those who fiduciary responsibility to work in your best interest does not. Views and opinions expressed in this video are not that of the host and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Survivor Corrections Without a Union. The views and opinions are of the guests and the guests alone.
I've had to have investment in the staff. They attrited over 2,000 officers out of the department because they wanted a smaller staffing ratio footprint for the new borough-based jails. In addition to that...
So they moved too quickly to reduce the staff?
I think that move was too quickly to reduce the number of staff that we had at the time, going back to 2019.
So one of the things you're considering as a possibility is to hire wardens and deputy wardens from outside the department. So I have two questions about that. Will the unions let you, and how will that change things?
So there's no intention or any plan to hire deputy wardens from outside the department.
Just wardens?
Just the warden rank. And what we want is, and what we're petitioning the court for, is the flexibility for me as commissioner or any commissioner in DOC to be able to appoint candidates from outside if they're qualified in order to manage our facilities. We need this option now because so much experience has left the agency, and we need individuals that have been through similar and alike challenges that we have in our jail today to be able to mentor and lead our workforce through it.
But where would you find these people, number one? Are they out of state, upstate, at state prisons? And number two, what makes you think that they would be better than promoting from within?
So a number of reasons. One is we have done national recruitments already. So we recently brought on 3 deputy commissioners that oversee security, administration, and facility operations. We've also brought in a senior deputy commissioner. All of these individuals, to include our 2 associate commissioners, have collectively hundreds of years of experience, and they hail from around the country. Upstate New York, as far as Los Angeles, New Jersey, Connecticut. And these individuals have decades of correctional management and uniform correction experience. So we would recruit individuals at the warden level from that same sort of areas.
So 18.
From the New York State Department of Labor, Section 5, Unions and Collective Action. The National Labor Relations Act, NLRA, is a federal law that protects the rights of employees to self-organize, to form, join, or assist in a labor organization, to bargain collectively through representation of their own choosing, and to engage in concerted activities for the purpose of collective bargaining or other mutual protection. It also protects the rights of employees who wish to refrain from engaging in such organizations or union activities. Employees who are represented by a union are generally also covered by the union contract, also referred to as collective bargaining agreement, or CBA. These agreements are not specified to any individual employee, but are intended to address common issues relevant to the employment of a specific group of employees. If your employment is governed by CBA, you are unlikely to be employed at will, and the terms of employment and possibly the permissible grounds of your termination are expressly set forth in the agreement. CBA often contains restrictions on the employer's ability to impose discipline or to set forth precisely how alleged infractions must be investigated before discipline can be imposed. Many CBAs have a detailed grievance procedure and mandate certain steps to arbitrate or mediate grievance disputes as they arise. Welcome to Survivor Corrections Without a Union. I'm your host, Henry Nelson. The video you just saw was of the Commissioner of the Department of Corrections, Molina, when he talked about the staffing levels and how the city shift reduced the staffing levels too fast. And I'm here with my guest, Albert Craig. And as you remember, he talked to New York One about this very issue.
Hello, how are you?
All right.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Finally, we have somebody admit that the officers didn't just fail the code of work, that it was an actual plan. Mm-hmm. He says that they shift reduced too soon. But what you heard from the union was officers are not coming to work.
Right.
You heard from the department, officers not coming to work. And they use that to intimidate, to harass, to promote a false narrative so that they can do the things that they're doing now. And that's penalize the officers. I mean, we have a situation now where officers, like I said before, officers' vacation days are so valuable. And this commissioner has used that. Officers aren't coming to work to meet two things. Number one, to cover up the lack of staff. Because the more you take vacation days, the fewer officers are out.
Right.
So instead of hiring more people, what they're doing now is taking 4 days for you. Like this new
Command discipline.
command discipline.
Right.
Yes. Unauthorized areas, 4 to 7 days. Abandonment of posts, 4 to 7 days. Lateness, under 15 minutes, 1 day. 15 minutes to an hour, 1 to 3 days. AWOLs, more than 2 hours, 4 to 7 days. Conflicts with R&R, AOL, 3 hours or more. Insufficient performance of duties, 4 to 7 days. Refused redeployment, MOC, suspension. Unprofessional demeanor or acts, 1 to 5 days. Count procedures, 4 to 7 days. Failure to obey a lawful order, 4 to 7 days. Sleeping on post, and this is really crazy because you've had officers his whole tenure doing overtime.
Right.
And you know it's hard for them to stay awake, sleep deprivation.
Right.
He got 5 to 10 days. Failure to remain alert and vigilant, 4 to 7 days. How do you stay awake when you're doing so much overtime?
Right.
Right? You're fighting to do this. You're not fit for duty. Appeals may result in a dismissal of charges or reduction or increase of proposed penalty. New directive, the facility can take up to 10 days.
That's ridiculous.
So again, you're using this to cover up your shortage of staff. You just heard him say the city shift reduce staff too soon. That's totally contradictory to what they said the issue was. People ain't coming to work,
Right. Right.
right? And it covers up the need or the lack, the point that the city doesn't want to hire more correction officers. If they take all these days, what's the likelihood of you being 15 minutes late when they changing your tour at will?
Right.
Right? What's the likelihood of you falling asleep if you have 4 days of 16 hours?
Absolutely.
Or 4 days of 12 hours, right? I know recently he said that a lot of these facilities are going back to 8 hours
Which means they'll work 16.
if they're stuck.
Yep.
And what that means is what? You're paying to get out of jail again.
Exactly.
So between giving them back time for being out, I mean to get out of jail, giving them vacation days to get the tour off, between these harsh penalties, you won't have to hire anybody else. Because there's no way that you're going to be in compliance with all of these.
Right. Actually, talking about that, the Command Discipline Directive, the union, as far as I'm concerned, will lead you to believe that the commissioner has full autonomy to change the Command Discipline Directive at his whim and whatnot. And I know that's not to be true. Can you explain on that?
Well, I'm a former executive board member of COBA. And anything that impacts, the word is have impact on your officers, you have a right, as per the collective bargaining agreement, to challenge it.
Right.
Question it, challenge it, negotiate it. They can't do any of this, like you heard Marsha Kramer say, without, in that interview, will the unions let you do it?
Right.
So they already acknowledge that the unions have this power. She acknowledges it.
Right.
But we have a union that hasn't fought anything. They've allowed this man to do whatever.
Right.
So remember, the president of the union holds the certificate of collective bargaining. And if all of this is happening, it does not happen without him.
Right. Right. So it goes. So we go back around again to these officers. So they work in these hours. They're being forced to use their own time in order to get rest for hours that they can't work anyway.
Right.
Technically, they can't work anyway, because after you need a 17th hour, you can't work anyway, so you have to put in a time due, which steals your time again from you. So if you do this over a course of period of time, by the time your vacation comes, you will have no vacation days.
Right, and that way they can fill all those holes. But something, the union is supposed to attack after he made these comments.
Right.
Because it goes to the narrative of why they felt the need to do all of this.
Right.
That it was false. It was a false premise, like I said on New York One,
Right.
that to get the officers and blame the officers so they can institute all of this. And mind you, this right here was what the Federal Monitor wanted.
Right.
The Federal Monitor wanted these changes in negotiation. Judge Swain ruled that the civil service law and discipline were the only things we had a right to argue for, because it was about the civil
right. Civil service law.
Right. So it was the only thing we could argue, but the union gave it away.
Right.
And they gave it away according to him, when I say him, I mean the commissioner, on a false narrative.
Right, that the officers supposed to come to work.
Right.
Now, which I believe leads into this other question I got. So if that's the case, what about the replacement of the uniformed wardens to the civilian wardens? And how does that affect the anti-privatization bill, along with civil service? Because once they get in the door, they move on. Now, no one has said, I've read an article with the president of the union, COBA, and the president of the ADW, beefing about they can't do that. They shouldn't be doing this. It's going to affect everything. But I haven't heard them criticize one particular person, which is obviously for it. I don't even have to say who it is. Obviously for it. And what are your opinions on that?
Look, basically it's this. Molina came there as an assistant warden.
Right.
That was whole thing was a failure.
A civilian assistant.
Right. He was a civilian assistant warden in some program that Pont wanted to do.
Right.
It was terribly unsuccessful. Right? He keeps talking about bringing civilians in, but he was a civilian. They even brought in a former inmate as a civilian
assistant commissioner. Right.
Right? No experience. What's the guy's name? Schiraldi had no experience running a jail system.
Right.
Right? None. What he ran was a juvenile detention center.
Right.
And he wasn't successful there.
Right.
You have Pont, who was an expert. He was unsuccessful. You had Brand. She was unsuccessful bringing all these civilians.
Right.
The idea that because you have experience, right, around the country and you're a civilian means that you are qualified to run corrections more than the people who you won't let run. They wouldn't let the uniformed wardens run their own facilities, and the reason for it is they had to meet the agenda of the Federal Monitor.
Right.
See, he's doing a horrible job. He's doing exactly what everyone else did, and that's blame the correction officer. Well, if we crack down on him, if we more discipline, this is what a dictator does.
Right. So that's what the commissioner's doing.
Right. I mean, when you sitting there telling me in every interview your premise or your plan has to do with disciplining the officers. The staff is not. The staff is not. yo, the staff can't even use the bathroom. If something happens while you're in the bathroom, they'll say, oh, you shouldn't have went to the bathroom.
Right.
You shouldn't have went to the bathroom. Oh, isn't it funny? All of a sudden, you're the accused one.
Right.
Isn't it funny that this happened when you used the bathroom?
Right. So you be the only one that's penalized. So therefore, basically, you're not a human being. The officer can't go to meal, won't get a meal, won't be able to go to the restroom, and can't call for help because no help comes.
Right.
What are they to do?
They quit like they wanted. That was the whole plan. He's letting you know by saying that they created the scenario to reduce staff.
Yeah.
If conditions are horrible, right? They're so bad that young people, we're not talking about old people, young people that they kept saying they were the new future
of the department.
of the
Right.
department.
Mm-hmm.
They ran out of here so damn fast. Why? Because remember, Brian said there would be no layoffs, right? We would lose staff by attrition. We now know what that meant,
Right.
right? Blame staff for everything. Let them get assaulted. Give them no meal reliefs. Don't let them use the bathroom,
Right.
and see how long they can take it.
Right.
And then the union said, we're not going to let you know how much staff we got. We just want 8,452,000 more officers.
Right.
They took astronomical, when you know you're not going to hire to reduce, when you have to reduce staff, the only way you reduce them at that point would be to lay off.
Right.
So it was all a shell game. It was a shell game to the federal monitor to get what he wanted, right? And that's more discipline on the officers. Remember, Nunez was about failing to report uses of force.
Right.
Right?
And they geared it all, they switched it over to everything else.
Right.
Everything else.
And-
So my issue is like, forget all the personal stuff. Where's the union fighting this? None of this can be done without the union either having a blind eye to it or not concerned about it. Because the bottom line is this: my officers, if it's me, my officer's not going to meal is a problem. My officer's not going to the bathroom is a major problem. The most craziest one is that you call for help and no one comes. It's utterly insane.
And see, look, this is the thing. I don't care how much people you bring around from around the country. Right? You could say we bringing people from, like he said, California, upstate, Texas, wherever you bring them from.
Right.
If the federal monitor is running a department, what good is it?
Right.
What good? What is going to be any different than when you have people in uniform, wardens, or not?
Right.
You still going to have to comply to a plan that cannot work.
Right.
At some point, and this is why people lie on their resumes, right? When you go for a job in McDonald's or wherever, you put in your resume, you worked before. I worked here, I worked there. And ooh, impressive resume. And then when you get in there, you're doing the same thing as the other guy.
Right.
Nothing is different. Nothing at all. Blame the officer. And when he said what he just said in that clip, he indicted de Blasio, Schiraldi, and himself.
Right.
Because he came here talking about how staff has to come to work.
Right.
He bragged that he got staff to come to work. But then you say that the city reduced the staff too soon.
Right.
What did that mean? How did they reduce them? How did they reduce the staff? And we need to come to grips with you have a situation where these officers, I'm going to say it again, have to file suit.
Right.
Very winnable suits. Form a class action and sue.
Right.
You're being extorted out of your vacation days to cover up a lack of staff. That's what's happening. If you can't go out on vacation, you fill the hole that another officer should be hired to fill.
Exactly.
And that's what's happening. He just admitted they reduced staff too soon.
Right. I heard this from an officer recently, like a day or two ago. When I spoke to an officer, they said that I think it's MKC. They don't have B officers on the floor. Like, what are we doing? I mean, we have to hold the union. We have to hold the union responsible
These are union
for it
issues.
because that's their issue.
Again, lying on a resume.
That's their issue.
You said that you could run the union.
Mm-hmm.
You say you won the election.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You did all of those things. You got in there and you told everybody what the problem. People are doing triples.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people know meals. People, you a reporter because you were reporting everything that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
You got in there, and all you kept screaming, two things: the officers need to come to work, and we need more staff.
Right.
Two conflicting things that the commissioner, his commissioner, and I say his because he was knocking Brand, he was knocking Pont, you know, Schiraldi, and now he won't say anything about this
now
guy.
they had a blatant disagreement with the civilian wardens. They had a blatant disagreement, but he'll never say his name. But these officers have to hold these people that represent them that we pay responsible to protect us. Anytime, this is my personal, anytime a union's relationship is better with the administration than the people the members that they're supposed to protect, it's insane.
Right.
And it seems to me, in the way I've always seen it, their relationship is much better with the administration than it is with officers.
I agree. And what the officers need to know is they don't have to wait another year, a year and a half. This dude is going to walk away, right? There's no way nobody going to vote for him, right? He's going to walk away, right, with statues of money that he's not working for. And this is just real. It's not personal. It's what it is.
Right.
Because when you're in the room with people, right? When you're in the room with them and you're talking to them and you're telling them, yo, listen, this is coming.
Right.
You know, I was in the room as a board member telling them, this is what's coming. All they was doing was worried about sitting in the seat rather than once I get there, what do I do to benefit these officers? And you ain't got to just say, oh, you know, because again, I'm the bitter guy.
Right.
No, I'm bitter, I'm angry, I'm so upset with the union. No. If you on a post, you should be upset with them too.
Absolutely. Because
And they should be upset with themselves. If they really, really cared about what happened to the union and happened to the people, then guess what they should be doing? They should be in their jails fighting like hell.
going crazy. Because as the officer work their posts, the board need to work their posts.
Right.
And they post is to protect the officers, to
Right.
protect the contract.
Do you know those are charges?
Yes.
And the Constitution and bylaws, right? That's a charge. You don't have to wait. You do not have to wait. Failing to represent you leaves the union open to litigation. The union can be sued.
By the membership, basically.
Yes, they can be sued. They all can be held liable. They took the course probably, I don't know if they still do it. Steve Isaac used to teach the course on the responsibilities of representatives, delegates. And the delegates can be successful if the board is compromised.
Right.
The president who hooped and hollered about all these other commissioners is silent.
Right.
And you know, then I gotta say this, man. A lot of these people who have these websites, right? And you try to put things up there that's helpful to the retirees and the officers. What they do is whenever you post something, I post something. What they do is they start putting idiotic stuff to push it down, so that nobody can see it.
Right.
Right. And
Which actually helps the membership and the retirees.
Yeah, but it helps this corruption, because this is corruption. This list, if it's accurate, is corruption.
Right.
because you did it on a false premise.
Right.
Right? These are easy winnable lawsuits. It's a false premise, and the man just said it. But the union won't challenge him on it, right? Because the union started the narrative.
Right.
People ain't coming to work. No. People were being forced out. These young people with all this optimism about their future were forced out, and he just verified. When I say he, I mean Molina.
Right.
And we have to get to the point where they realize they have to take it in their own, take it on themselves to fight for themselves. Because the union is not going to do it.
Right, right. One thing I've noticed, I've seen, I was a delegate for a long term, is that unfair labor practice. You have these delegates getting abused by they staff, the supervisors. They kick them off a post, they throw them here, they throw them there. You can't find them.
They're scared.
if they getting bumped off, what chance an officer has?
None.
What chance do
None.
an officer
But
have?
that's when.
And my thing, the delegates really don't need the executive board to exercise their rights.
No.
You know what I'm
The
saying?
delegate
Because
is
they
the
sworn
power.
they be official. There you go.
Let me tell you something. That delegates have more power than this board. They could come to a meeting. If all of them, look, I was a delegate that challenged the board, and I was a board member that challenged the board. Check this out. They can't withhold your stipend.
No.
They can't do it. If they withhold yours, they have to withhold theirs. Right? That's number one. They must represent everybody who holds the title of correction officer. Right? Number three, if you're a delegate and they retaliate, they must either mediate or go to what is the organization called? Office of Collective Bargaining. They must stop being scared. You have so much power. It's about 100 of you. Put in the time to and come to a meeting and voice your grievances on the record. They don't want you to have 100 people come to the meeting, because if you do, number one, they're gonna have to read the minutes from the last meeting. The last official meeting, the president of your union put on the floor bylaw changes, right? He's not gonna go against his own bylaw changes. Those bylaw changes would force another election immediately. He won't allow you to do it. That's why they're not releasing you to go to the meetings. There's so many ways that if you really want to change, that could happen immediately. That's the only way you're going to be saved. And you know, it's the same thing with the MLC, right? The Municipal Labor Committee.
Right.
They're trash.
Right. I'm trying to figure out how does that benefit us. I'm quite sure we pay as the other ones pay money into it, and it looked like we're getting anything from it.
Nothing.
And when anything from it,
Nothing.
and we actually getting undermined.
Yes, because you being used as a bargaining chip, right? When your union has given away everything, like COBA, the next thing they do is going to retirees.
Right.
Like the city wants the retirees' health package, right? Benefit package. They want to change it. How do you have a vote, right? A symbolic vote to show the mayor that you're not going to challenge his decision to change people's medical?
Right.
See, this is the thing. That is a violation of your function as a union. But the only reason these people can get raises because he's given everything is to vote and refuse to help the retirees.
So he has nothing else to bargain with.
Nothing.
Nothing.
What can he give? What's givebacks? What givebacks do you think he have?
He doesn't they gave away everything.
Right.
They gave away everything.
What
only
givebacks?
thing I can give you is something from the retirees.
Yeah, but you can't even legally give back because it's a law.
Exactly.
So you had to just a public showing that you won't fight it.
Right.
Right? You won't fight it. But this is the thing with the retirees. You won't fight it. So this taxation without representation, the city gives you money, right? If the retirees break away from having guys like this president and this board, have them, if they break away and negotiate their own dental, optical, and prescription, and any other fund that they give, and form their own.
Let's make it clear. Form their own as retiree officers.
Yes.
Not no other.
No.
Any other thing.
Not taking over COBA.
Right. COBA stays. Just the
money
goes to the retirees fund. In other words.
And because listen, you got to look at the plan like this. It's like going to a ride. It's like going to a ride like Great Adventures. The more people you have, the cheaper the price is.
Exactly.
They need to wield their power too. The active officers need screw the couple of dollars you're going to get, because you're going to have to pay more in co-payments for your medical.
Medical, right?
So you're not really going to do anything but go move into another tax bracket. Some people, and you're not going to see none of that money.
Right.
See, we have to start thinking about services, right? Receiving services. If you go to a restaurant, a fancy restaurant, you get your nice clothes on, and you go and you get a menu. The menu got lobster, all this stuff you like, most expensive wine and liquors, and all of a sudden, you don't even order, they come with the check.
Right.
A bill. Bill say $500. You'd be outraged.
With no service. Yep.
That's what the union is doing. They're taking money out of your check and they're providing no services.
Right. Because these officers are, I know for a fact, being there, officers are terrorized. These officers are terrorized. And, it's just to be clear to me that if you was on the outside, or if you haven't worked in jail for over 20 years or 50 years, you wouldn't believe it.
Man, I've been going.
You can't believe it.
I've been going 6 months, right? 6 months. Technically, 4 months.
Right.
But I haven't been in a jail with a uniform on in 6 months. The jail has changed in 6 months.
Yes, it has.
So all it is, I'm getting Harold from Texas to come in here. You don't even know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Because let me tell you how slick the Molina is, right? This right here, all of these days, again, I'm gonna reiterate this.
Right.
You heard him in the video.
And they couldn't, so let's get this clear. This could not be done without the approval of the unions.
You damn right it can't.
This is plain and simple.
Look, when it came to Nunez, right? I was a part of a committee that included Warden Clemens, former Warden Clemens, former chief of the department, Cranston, right? We would meet and discuss strategy about COBA, how COBA was going to approach the federal monitor. So I'm very familiar with Judge Swain, who ruled, and this is with Steve Isaac as well, former general counsel, that discipline, civil service law, was the only thing we had because we are an interested party.
Right.
Right? And they're not even fighting. One more point I would like to make is that there was a judge, an oath judge named Casey, right? He's still a nice guy, but he used to always say this: the federal monitor said absolutely no punches to the head. And I would argue with him saying, not just him, many of them.
Right.
So how many punches to my head can I take before the federal monitor steps in? Right? I only bring it up to say, when you go to oath, what's happening at oath is he's an arm, he and his counterparts are all arms of the federal monitor.
Right.
They don't look at civil service law.
Right.
They going, the federal monitor don't want you doing this. And then they rule against you. You
Right.
cannot win, especially when you're going down there with a legal team and you have absolutely no confidence that they're going to represent you the right way.
Right. Because I've seen and I've spoke to many officers that have gotten hurt on the job and was told to just basically cop out, for no lack of a better word, and take whatever days you're going to get because you're going to be fired. Now, I know the mitigating factors does have a play in this.
Yes.
Does have a role in this.
Yes, but check this out. So if they going so hard, like this guy is going so hard with this, because see, this was a slick way for the federal monitor to get what they want. They agreed to this because the federal monitor wanted this from the start, right? He wanted them to be able to fire you quicker, discipline you more harshly, but nobody got up there, including this whack-ass department. They never got up there and defended the position of the staff.
Right.
Like, okay, I'm gonna punch this officer in the face. Now they've got to the point where I could punch him in the face, kick him in the head, spit on him. Oh yeah, it's a backlog on getting arrest, right? And if you press, you got to fill out an application over the radio. What's the nature? Who's the what?
What?
You got to do all of that to get help, right? And this is the thing. So they are adopting an unwritten policy according to the Federal Monitor's report. The Department of Corrections to not provide assistance. That is called negligence when you get hurt. Negligence. If they don't send you help when you press that PBA, that is negligence. When they didn't have enough staff on the floor, right? They didn't. Now, mind you, this is so easy to win because the city was saying, we got enough staff, we don't need to rehire.
Absolutely.
Which is a violation of Nunez, right? Because it's supposed to be the higher officer to inmate ratio.
Right.
So now I'm getting the shit beat out of me, right? You won't send me help because the federal monitor said, oh, we don't. And you, actually, they do have it in writing.
Right.
Right, with this level A, level B,
Right.
they delaying you help. That's negligence.
Right. So what about so we come down, let's get it all cleared up. We come down to the point is that right now, we a union that don't unionize. We have no information. These officers get no information whatsoever. They don't get anything about what's coming down the pipe, how it's gonna affect them, what is going to be done about you not getting a meal, what is going to be done about you getting assaulted, what is going to get done,
Right.
what is going to be done if there's no staff on the floor, what is going to be done, which is illegal. You have all these things. Why is the union keeping the officers in the dark? The bottom line is that I get videos, because I sign up for it. I get my COBA emails and this and that. It's never on anything of substance that protects the officers' lives. Nothing. I have never seen a lawsuit yet.
But why don't the officers, again, class action lawsuit, and name the union in the lawsuit?
Right. Because
Name them. If you're not fighting for their safety, what the hell are we talking about?
Right.
You sitting there and we got things in the works. Every time you talk, it was things in the works.
You can't be over 2 years and things in the work. It happens daily.
In the work, we have something planned. You don't know, just look out for it. No, I don't have to. If you're telling me I have to be in a housing area by myself, with nobody on the B and C post, or one of those posts are not there, the city should be upset about it. You know why? Because the city is paying for that post to be filled.
Right.
But what happens is, again, when you fill out an application for the job and you don't know what you're doing, you just do what everybody else did. You know how that goes. When you learn a post, you get on the post, you try to shadow the officer, and then the shit don't go out.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because the stance, and we at a point where the stance should be taken that my officers are not going on that floor. My officers, you have to hold them.
Oh, but
to
he got that.
Something.
He got this. Refuse redeployment.
Right. Now, we ain't talking about refused redeployment.
No,
I'm talking about
no.
like if an officer, I'm come to a post, I'm the A. I come to a post to relieve the A. There's no B or C post there.
Right.
There is no way in hell am I assuming that post.
That's like telling you.
There is no way in hell.
You went
but,
to- yes.
but as a delegate, I would have been there. We've done this. Actually, we've done this before. We we said, no, you can't assume this post without it. And the administration, oh, what are we going to do about it? That's not our problem. Because in the end, if somebody gets killed, that officer most likely is going to jail. Why? Because you followed the unlawful order.
Right.
So we go all the way down there. But you might as well clear this whole thing up. This is what happens when we elect people because we may like them or whatever situation may be. But if I haven't been on my block in 10, 15, 20 years, I'm not from that block no more. If I haven't worked, if I haven't had to have a one-on-one with an inmate or deal with an inmate for the last 15, 20 years, I'm no longer a CO. Right. Because my issue is entirely different than yours. I can't see your point of view.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
Bro, you're 100% right. You're 100% right.
In my opinion. You know?
No, I agree with you, but to me, it's simple. You can learn while you're in a position, right? So even if he didn't work in the jail, which he didn't, right? You can learn on the job.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
But you can't learn if you're unwilling to.
Right. You're not willing to learn, or unfortunately not willing to listen to anybody else.
No, because he got the legal team that works is not corrections.
Right.
They
from PD?
Yeah. They from PD. They represent PD. Yeah. And it's two different jobs. They say, well, it's all labor law. And no, it's not.
Actually, funny you mentioned it. Didn't they represent the traffic or something like that and destroy that? They represented somebody else.
I'm not sure if they represent, but they represent a lot of people. And the point being is they're just as quiet.
Right.
They're just as quiet as there is no lawsuit.
Right.
Bro, in the last time I was here and this time, I've named several issues that lawsuits can be filed.
Right.
Several. Right? There's no way that they can adopt a policy to not send you help.
Right.
There's no way that you should be without mail. There is no way.
Actually, speaking on that part about not sending you help, they shrouded around. They don't put it in writing. They shrouded around the ADW having the discretion whether to send.
But he's a fool.
A or B. But he's legally liable. If I'm called for help, B.
He's liable.
And you say A, when they ever get down there eventually one day, and I get assaulted, he or she is liable. I don't understand why would they put themselves in that position?
Suing them.
Yeah,
the union is not suing them.
Lawsuit. No, I haven't seen that.
Because they ain't compliant. How is it that
I just want to see? I want to see one lawsuit, just one. I mean,
you keep hitting the PBA, and nobody coming. Because at one point in this horrific thing, it was we don't have enough staff.
Right.
That's no excuse for not
It's not, and that's good because it's unsafe.
No
so therefore, you have to go back.
But guess what? You should have did. You should have called for an emergency to have people come respond to one, not freaking privatize. But you diminished ESU.
Right.
Look, this is the crazy. This is how bad management works. I got ESU, and I'm talking about shift reducing them.
Right.
Right? I know I have one officer, two officers on a post. Guess who I have responding? ESU.
Right.
Guess who I have doing the lock-ins? ESU. Because I know overnight.
Or the search team, that special search unit, whatever they do.
But I'm talking about you have them perform the lock-ins.
Right.
You have them lock in, so at least at night, your staff is minimized.
Right.
You have people that can respond to assist. But no, they let them kick the A doors down, the B doors down. They let them riot in the facilities, and then never reported it as a riot.
Right.
Right? Oh, come on, Tyrone, walk back to the. Come on, TJ. Well, back to yourself.
You know what's funny is I just thought about something. I was reading the paper about these drug issues in the jail. All these drugs coming in. Now they saying it's the cargo pants again. They went back to that is the cargo pants again, which I know better. And I haven't seen nobody search anybody in a long time. We haven't been doing these massive searches the way we used to. You do it here. They do it here and there. But what about the mail? What about all this other stuff that's coming in?
Well, we know they're not, number one, they're not drug tested. Number two, the drugs is this.
Just soaked in the paper.
The drugs is a piece of paper. That's it. Liquid form, soak it in the paper, and they smoke it. They smoke it.
Right.
The whole concept is another way of blaming the officers for mismanagement. If you're not drug testing, if you're not rearresting,
right?
And the reason why you're not rearresting, you don't want them people to be stuck on Rikers. So let's keep it real. That's what this is about.
Reducing the numbers on Rikers.
That's all it's about.
Hell, I
we want you to go upstate, so take this deal, go up there, because we gotta close this place.
Right.
If the commissioner said they moved too fast to get rid of officers, how fast do you think they're going to be to remove the inmates?
Much fast. Put somebody at the door quicker they can.
So there we have it. So take this punk little bit of time. Truthfully, and like I said, you've been in there, because we keep saying 2 years. But Benny Basio been on the board almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So for almost 20 years, you've sat in the room and I've sat in the room. He's always been pro-management.
Right. Oh, see, that's
and I'm going to keep it real. And I hope he say I'm a liar. I pray he say I'm a liar.
No, he's not going to say you're a liar because...
No, because you can't. You see it now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, I'm retired. I'm not one of these guys that's going to be, the union. Nah, the union is a great thing when it's ran by people that have compassion.
That really cares, right?
You don't need to be the smartest guy. You just need compassion. This guy, Molina, has none. How the hell? Somebody was manning these posts for 4 years, 5, however long it's been going. Somebody took their ass to work every day and knew they wasn't going home for 30 hours.
Right.
Somebody knew that, and they showed up the next day.
Right.
But here you come, and you doing the same thing. Now, what would I have done? I would have stayed the course, right? When it came at the union, I'm talking about, and went to Judge Swain about this. Because somebody said to me, Craig, you got to understand, they had to do that to keep the federal monitor. What's the difference?
Right.
They in there making arrests already. Right? This guy has shown no compassion. He's complying with what they want.
Right.
No matter how nonsensical it is.
Right.
But he's trying to convince you that if he brings in his buddies from around the country, they're going to do anything different, but the mandate still is the same. Right. And if you're complying you're the head, and you're complying with the federal monitor, they don't even have a chance of not complying. Right. So it don't matter who's in those things unless you grow a set and stand up and fight what requires, it requires he has compassion. Right. He came and said, this is a minority department, and blah, blah, blah. They treat the minority, they can only do this because it's the blacks and Latino. This is what he said. Well, who's doing it worse than you? Right. Who? How could you look a man in his face and tell him, next week, come here on a 73. Right. But hey, I got kids, or woman.
Come here 11 to 7, right, 7 to 3, 5 to 1.
Who want to pick my kids up?
9 to 5.
This is the job.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Not for this long. Again, they need to sue. The evidence is on this video. Right? They shift reduced too soon.
Yes.
That's what he said. And I'm not, Matter of fact, let me take away the air quotes. But that's what he stated.
Right. And that's what we had at this moment.